Hey, guess who this is? It's LunarWorks Odds and Ends. Yeah, we weren't under a rock for real. But we are back.
We're back.
We got some stuff going on. We have some stuff we want to talk about today. And we have just finished celebrating our
41st anniversary. We went to the beach, but it was so cold and windy that we basically, sat in the car with the windows open and let the air kind of blow through.
We were in the car for 4 days.
Yeah.
Let's just...
No, we did have a hotel room.
Yeah, we did stay in the hotel.
Yeah,
which was a great view.
It was a great view
of the arena. Things we like.
Right.
So that was awesome. So we're ready to talk about a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
And today we want to talk about identity and persona. How you and the world perceives you.
And how gender either describes you or conforms to you. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Yvonne, Hazel Lee's daughter, how do you identify?
How do I identify myself? I identify myself as a cisgender female lesbian BBW goddess
Sisters
of the world. I have always identified as female. I think that I first felt the yearnings of actually at least identifying myself as lesbian was probably closer to maybe high school, maybe even junior high school. So that's how I identify myself.
Okay.
So Myra, how do you identify yourself?
Wow, that's a big question. But how do I identify myself? I identify myself as woman. Always girl, woman, love being a woman, never thought about being anything else. But that's how I identify. My persona, apparently, people like to identify me differently. But I've always felt female, lesbian, black, heavy, and hilarious. That's how I identify. That's my identity. If you call me anything different than that, you're not calling me. So how do you identify? And do you match your persona?
That is the question
that we are asking.
Okay. From my standpoint, I come off as a feminine female sometimes. Back in the 80s, I kind of played it down. I think a lot of it had to do with my self-evaluation as a lesbian and did not want to be so targeted as a straight woman. So that's when I was cutting the hair. Remember the high top fade?
Wearing the ties.
Wearing the ties, because that's what everybody kind of did at that time.
It's an 80s thing.
And it was an 80s thing.
Skinny ties.
Skinny ties. And I always wanted to be, a strong person. And I think that when people automatically look at me, they think of me as a very feminine woman. And I remember when we were actually going out together and going to the club. And because Myra and I would be out together, I would have women that would come up to me at a club and ask her, can they dance with me? And Myra's answer was,
you better ask her. Like, why are you asking me to I know.
Yeah.
Theoretically why, but it was like, no, you can ask her if she wants to dance.
Right. So that's when I first...
But I'm not going to dance with
her. Right. You're not going to dance with her. That's right. I think that was when we first realized that there was a butch femme thing. We actually had to read it. Nowadays, ladies, I think it's called stud and femme. It looks like the femmes kept their name and the studs had to change theirs. Don't know why. I think that
Preferable, maybe.
yeah, well, it was a kind of dated type of thing. So yeah.
I don't. Yeah,
It's
I
dated.
don't know. This. That's another subject.
That's
I was
that's
just gonna-
another subject altogether. Yeah, I think that if I finally came to terms with our relationship and being a full-figured, curvy woman and having to identify as lesbian came to a head one day at work. I'm in customer service, and one day a gentleman came up to me, an older gentleman. And actually, when in hindsight, he was way too old to be actually trying to pick me up. But he said to me, and I've heard this term before, and all you Southern ladies and may know this term. He leaned over the counter at me and said, "Excuse me, but is your husband married?" And I've heard that term before. And I returned his stare and looked at him and said, "No, but my wife is." And he goes, oh, I say, "I'm sorry." No, it's okay. You didn't know. But yes, my wife is married. And I remember going home and telling Myra this. And it was my first time of actually coming out and identifying myself to someone else other than my closest friends or whatever, that I was a lesbian.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the first time. What was your first time
I think my first identifying moment or issues I've had with identifying moments. I think I was 12 or 13 years old, and it was back to school time, and my mother we were at an Ames or some department store that had, the popcorn and the concession at the end of the register. And as my parents' mother was checking out, I went up to the concession stand. Now, mind you, I have on a little dress, little mini. It was the 60s.
Oh, girl.
And it was above my knees, a little belt, and a fro. And the woman said, "Sir, can I help you?" And I remember going, "Who's she talking to? Sir?" And I'm going like, "I even got on a dress. How could she make such a mistake?" And I remember saying, and never said it before, "No, I'm a girl." And she said, "Well, whatever. How can I help you?" And I, devastated, still issues with that. But have been learning how to handle that and place it in places that's better for me. And that has been forever. It's having to feel very much like a woman, and even though the clothes that I choose,
she chooses the coolest things to wear.
The clothes that I choose appear to be masculine for some, but for me, I feel more like a woman than I do in, say, a pair of jeans.
Go Shania.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a woman.
I know.
Men's shirts, straight skirts.
Feel like a woman. And I've always love that song, but I've always felt especially I love vests. And when I wear a vest, it just makes me feel so good, And I know I'm looking like a bartender sometimes and from, Gunsmoke, but it's okay. I'm feeling good. I don't wear frills, and it's very straightforward, collar, jacket, very seldom, mostly a vest.
Me, it's just black.
Yeah, and so I often get someone that's usually somebody tall because I'm in the customer service business, and if they're behind me and I hear "sir," and one of my psychologists told me that when I discussed it with her, said that because I was concerned about correcting them or really
It's
having
that fear of offending somebody else has already offended you.
right.
Mhm.
And then her comment was, don't help them, to not help them,
Mhm.
because they need the lesson.
They need a lesson.
They need to be able to understand that you're going to have to figure out a different way to identify people other than their gender or what you assume the gender is.
Mhm.
Because persona can be different from identity.
You have just struck on something very, very important, because I work in an environment where there's several different individuals that have identified as other. I have a young person who wishes to be identified as them, they, or their. And because physically she is looks female, she considers herself non-binary, which
Okay.
means that I have to respect that. When we were first out, there was only 3. Okay, it was either you were gay, you were a lesbian, or you were bi.
Right.
And anything in between, or actually
Had to go into those pigeonholes.
had to go into a pigeonhole.
As our acronyms get longer.
And yes, first it was LGBTQ.
It was G first.
Yeah,
gay, lesbian, and bi.
Bi, and then it was LGBTQ and
Yeah.
and nauseum.
As individuals, we need to start learning how to identify people a different way than gender. And I'm from the South.
Oh, that's right, you are.
Gender.
Because this
goes into that.
That goes into that.
But you know what I mean. There needs to be another way that people identify, and so which goes into our next subject is
learn how to care less. What you really want to say is
learn how to not make it hurt so much.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Because in my case, I really have not really had an issue with misidentification. Up until recently, I had a new job and I'm working in, of course, customer service. And for the first time in my entire life, I have been called sir. And it's only because everything is very busy and you're behind a register and this, that, and the other. And I have shaved my head. So all they see is a bald head. Now,
shave their head.
Women who shave their hair. So this was the first time that I actually had a bout with the identification problem. I let him go ahead and stumble and blumble and let him go. And I was like, okay, let me go ahead and finish you out. So getting to that point of the older you get, the more you don't care. I am much more readily to tell someone that I have a spouse and my spouse is female. When someone asks, are you married? No, I have a partner. And she and I have been together such and such years. So that's another self-identification thing, because I am not married to a dude. I am married to a woman. And
smells like a woman. Oh.
A significant amount of time. So that is a part of me getting older and not having to be concerned with, who or what I identify with.
Well, kind of the same. For me, I'm identified as male almost every day. And I don't have this hat on, and I started losing my hair when I was in my 20s. And so my hair is thin, and I have that female pattern bald and leg thing. But I hook it up like I can. But the rest of me is still all woman. And
yeah.
So I can have somebody behind me and yelling, sir, sir. And I've learned it used to really shudder me. But now I'm going, okay, at some point he's going to realize I'm not answering him. And they're going to come around. And surely enough, they'll come around. And
Then they go,
and they go, "Oh, ma'am, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," and my response is, "Hello, can I help you with something?" I don't engage in their fumbling of their
it's not
agenda.
worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it emotionally. But I also never try to change my persona to fit, to make that stop. Some of it I can't. Some of it is God and nature. But some of it, when it comes to see what I'm wearing, it's making me feel good like a woman. So I'm not going to help them or help people.
You know what? It's the same thing about racism. You do not have to make someone else feel good about a perception or a perception.
Right. Not my job.
And that is not your job to placate or say, "Oh, I'm sorry you didn't get the memo," because that's not our job.
Right.
You know.
And I'm not going to discuss the fact that what you said was insulting, because I think you already know that.
Right. You figured it out by the look on my face.
And you're tripping over your everything.
Yeah.
And so absorb that and then fix it. That's all. We can't fix people's stuff with them. You know. So I guess the question for the world and the masses is, how do you identify and how is your identity and persona creates different things for your life.
For your life. Yeah.
This is me. You know, this is me.
I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses.
Thank you. And with that, please subscribe and hit the bell.
Thank you.
There's no bell.
Thank you. This is Luna Works.
See you next time.